Hi, this is Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. How would you like to look 5 years younger? In a clinical study, people that had volume added with Juvederm, Voluma XC, in the cheeks perceived themselves as looking 5 years younger at 6 months after treatment. Look younger, feel like you, add volume for lift and contour in the cheeks with Juvederm, Voluma XC, and reverse signs of aging by adding volume to smooth laugh lines with Juvederm Velour XC. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site, redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
This special story is presented by Hemp's and Acast Creative.
Okay, I've been waiting for this time of year for it feels like years. I feel like it was such a long, dreary winter. And now here we are, spring-ish,
depending on where you live.
Spring-ish, yeah, okay. There's still like a chill. But listen, I love to sort of set the stage. When it's spring, I like to clear my closet. I like to spring clean. I like to get some new clothes. And of course, I like to kind of set the stage with fragrance.
Oh, absolutely. Since we started working with Hemp's, I've been trying all the varieties. I feel like now is the time for like the citrus. Let's bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Hemp's has their Beauty Actives line. You guys have been hearing us talk about that kind of all winter as it's keeping us moisturized. But they have 4 variations in the Beauty Actives line. And right now the Hemp's Citrus Blossom Body Moisturizer is the thing to have. It has brightening vitamin C as well. They also have Ocean Breeze Moisturizer with hyaluronic acid if oceanic fragrances are more your thing. But personally, I feel like citrus is just like a breath of fresh air into your whole, like my body routine, but also my home, if that makes sense.
It's very invigorating. And we know we've done a lot of like interviews about this. It's very energizing.
It is an energizing scent. I kind of need that this time of year. But the cool thing about this whole line of body lotions is they're sort of like face care for your body. So in addition to the scent, I know Jess and I always get very focused on like being moisturized and fragrance. There is the vitamin C, which is brightening, of course. And all the Hemp's line has hemp seed oil, which is the unsaturated fatty acids, the linoleic acid, helps your skin retain moisture. But to me, Jess, this kind of reminds me of, you started talking about this back in the fall, the like, don't neglect below the chin kind of moment for body care. Are you still feeling that?
We talk about this a lot. We focus so much on our face, but then as soon as, especially once we start getting into like spring and start getting into like wearing like tanks and bathing suits and stuff in the summer, it's like, wait, what?
I feel like my whole life I've been like, wait, what? Just hiding under a black turtleneck? I don't know. Black turtleneck can hide a lot of things. Let me tell you.
At recording time in my like chilly apartment, I'm wearing a black turtleneck now. And it's like our face is like 1/8 of the skin, but don't neglect the neck and deck, okay?
Oh, you love a neck and deck moment.
Neck and deck, okay? Look for body products that have the same actives that are in your skincare. I don't know why we have this huge blind spot. I'm guilty of it too. But be nice to your body. Treat it the same way as you treat your face. What's wrong with us?
I know. And if you're going to get a vitamin C serum for the antioxidant value and the brightening value on your facial skin, why wouldn't you do the same for your décolletage and the neck and the shoulders and the arms and the body, because it's spring and we're here and we're citrus and we're active and I love it. So the new Hemp's Beauty Actives line, they have the Citrus Blossom with vitamin C that we've just been chatting about because Jess and I have been using that one. There's also the Ocean Breeze with hyaluronic acid. So a little extra moisture this time of year to get your skin in shape. They're all available at your favorite beauty retailer. So like your Ulta Beauty, all of that. But if you go to the website, which is hemps.com, that's hemps with a Z, HEMPZ.com, and use the code FATMASCARA, hello, you're going to get 20% off. You get a discount. Happy spring to you. Discount on your products. So use the code FATMASCARA for 20% off your first order at hemps.com. That offer is valid only on regular price merchandise, just so you know. It's hemps.com, HEMPZ.com, FATMASCARA for 20% off.
Thank you for listening to the story, brought to you in partnership with Hemp's and Acast Creative.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fat Mascara. It's me, Jen. Hi. Jess isn't here with me just for the intro, but she is here for the interview. And this interview is a much needed one. It's a replay, but for good reason, actually your reason. I have gotten in the last 2 weeks, I can't even tell you how many DMs about thinning hair, hair loss. I don't know if it's the change of season, everything that's going on in people's lives, maybe some stress, maybe a little post-COVID, post-illness, post-winter, post-pregnancy. All right, enough with the post. You get the idea. Hair loss is a big deal. And when you're dealing with it, it is devastating. So we got pretty much the hair authority, dermatologist Dr. Doris Day, to come on and talk to us all about hair loss, why it happens, what you can do about. So in this interview, which originally ran in 2019, she talks about stress management, some of the supplements and serums, and over-the-counter help, and yes, prescription help for hair loss, PRP, that's platelet-rich plasma. A lot of the things you often ask us about, they're covered in this interview. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really good one. We'll be back next week with an original interview. And here it is.
We are here with Dr. Doris Day, the wonderful Dr. Doris Day, one of the leading dermatologists in New York. She's also an expert source on hair loss, a topic that we know you've all been dying to hear about. Finally, she's here. We've been trying to get her for a while. Welcome, Dr. Doris Day.
It's so good to be here with you. I actually wasn't sure this was a podcast, so I did makeup for you. So you can't see me, but I have full makeup.
She looks amazing.
She looks gorgeous. Okay, so I was so excited to have you here because I knew that you'd be a great source to speak to about hair thinning. You know, both Jen and I have interviewed you a ton over the years about this topic, but I just want to back up for a second. You know, why are you a great source for hair thinning? I just kind of always understood that you were, because it's like, my beauty editor taught me that you are a great, it's like it's been passed down.
Yeah, but you're a dermatologist, which is skin, right?
But like, but I think a lot of people wouldn't know that. Like, maybe they think they need to go to a hair doctor, not
You're
a dermatologist.
absolutely right. And it happened a little bit by accident and a little bit on purpose. So what happened was, for me, it's partly personal because everybody in my family goes bald. So I had hair issues. My daughter used to call me Baldy when I was, when she was like 4, not to be mean, but because I had hair issues. So It's always somewhat personal. Look, I'm a woman. I'm getting older. I'm sensitive to appearance too. And I started out in internal medicine and then, in journalism, then internal medicine. Then I did dermatology. And going through that, I always look beyond the skin to see what's going on. So the skin is my best tool. When I see hair issues, I know that there's something else going on. And my goal is to get to the bottom of it. And because it was personal for me, because I know the value and the power of hair as how it affects our self-esteem. So when patients come in and complain about hair, even if I can't tell yet that they're losing hair, I know that they know themselves and they know their hair and they have a problem, and I need to listen and I need to help them stay ahead of it. Because the reality is that by the time anyone else notices that you've lost hair, you've lost 30 to 40% of your hair. And that's not okay. So we need to be ahead of it, because the sooner we start, the more of your hair we can maintain and enhance and save.
So if somebody who's listening to this podcast, if they know themselves, if they think they're losing their hair, who should they run to though? Should they run to a derm, or is there another kind of doctor?
No, you run to a dermatologist, but I will tell you that for most dermatologists, it's the bane of our existence. Like in our dermatology groups, when we joke amongst ourselves, we talk about a patient who comes in and they have, like, you do a skin cancer screening, acne, all these different things. And then as you're ready to leave and walk out the door, and they go, oh, and by the way, I also have hair loss. And that's when we want to kill ourselves, because hair loss is really hard. And the reason that it's so hard is because it's normal to shed hair every day. So that's one thing. 2 is that many more people feel like they have a hair issue than really have a hair issue. There are days and times of the year and times of your life you will shed more, and that hair will grow back. Your hair also changes as you age. So your hair when you're little is fine, it may be curly, and then it grows in thick. And then as you get older, the density and the volume changes, and we don't take that change well. So there's a lot of change that's physical. There's a lot of change that's emotional that happens with hair. And as dermatologists, we can address what we see physically, but I have patients who come in who are so obsessed with their hair and their hair loss that they almost can't function. So I actually wrote a book called Beyond Beautiful, and one of the most critical sections of the book is about hair, and it talks about the connection between people who tend to notice that they have hair shedding or hair loss and what it means beyond the hair. So my observation of 20 years of looking at people and watching what goes on, I can fix it medically and address it medically, but the emotional side is really powerful. My observation has been that people with hair issues tend to be capable people who are ambitious. I know I'm generalizing and I'm not analyzing anyone, but the commonality in that person who is really focused on their hair loss, whether or not it's obvious to anyone else, are people capable, ambitious, usually like a type A type of personality.
Yeah.
And what happens is they're literally pulled in too many directions. And these are people who have family and boyfriends or girlfriends and work and all these different things pulling them. They can do all those things. They don't necessarily want to. And they're giving so much of themselves. And focusing on their hair takes their energy away from focusing on their life. So some of what I do is dealing with the hair, and some of what I do is putting the connection into perspective.
So it's like you have to be a psychologist too.
Well, I have to be a full doctor. So part of being a full doctor is taking care of the full person, and that includes the mind. But I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not trying to analyze people. But I'm trying to help people understand the connection between appearance and health and well-being. And those connections are important.
Can we work from... We assume that our listeners are obviously going to take that in as part of your advice, but let's also talk about the physical thing.
Absolutely.
As far as like, listen, this woman or man knows their hair is gone. Other people have noticed it. We're at a point where we're beyond the emotional state of it.
Well, we need both.
Yeah.
So we take the physical.
So what are some of the causes, though, other than obviously cortisol influx because you're stressed and pulled in a million directions?
Right. So there are the most common cause is going to be a stress shedding.
Right.
So the stress shedding is not a true loss. It's called telogen effluvium, and that's because that's a particular part of the hair growth cycle. So your hair grows for 2 to 10 years on your scalp, obviously not on your brows or underarms or legs. That would be horrible. But your scalp hair cycle is the growing phase, the anagen phase is 2 to 10 years. The resting or telogen phase is 3 to 4 months. And then there's the shedding phase, which is a few weeks, the catagen phase. So then it comes back around and it starts to grow. So at any given time, 90% randomly over your scalp, it's not any one part of your scalp, but 90% is in the growing phase. 10% is sitting in that resting phase, and then it falls out and it grows back. So that resting phase, we guess, is about 100 to 150 hairs, because you think of like how many hair follicles, you have about 100,000. So then you have about 100 to 150 hairs that are getting ready to fall out. So at any given time. So what happens is that when you go through a stress, a major physiologic stress, a breakup, a marriage, a divorce, a death, childbirth, chemo, all these different things that put your body into a state of some type of shock.
Anesthesia, I've heard
Anesthesia,
too. Yeah.
absolutely. Medications. All those things can force up to 30 to 40% of your hair to synchronously move out of that anagen or growing phase into the resting phase all at once. So that means over the next 3 to 4 months, you can shed up to 30 to 40% of your hair.
But that's almost a good thing, because that means it's going to get back in the other phase.
So it's not true loss.
So this isn't the kind that isn't reversible.
Right. But the problem is that once you go into that stress cycle, so if you keep on having major stresses, right, either whether it's over your hair or you have yo-yo dieting, or, you just keep going through stresses, divorces, all these changes in life can take time. They don't just happen in a moment and then they end. Then you can have a chronic telogen effluvium, and that ends up being a net loss.
So can you ever bounce back?
You can, but you have to address that underlying source, which goes back to that emotional side too. So that's why it's always making that connection. And I get that from patients all the time. They get anxious because they get, okay, I'll deal with the emotional side, but tell me what I can do. And the problem is that unless you get both sides in. So I always tell them what they can do. For the telogen effluvium, you obviously have to get over the stress. So childbirth passes, that comes back around. If it's a medication, you can try switching. If it's a life event, you can learn to manage it differently, because it's not just about having stress, it's how you manage the stress. So you can make choices about doing meditation, or understanding that that is a connection that's driving it, and finding ways to break that connection. So if that's telogen effluvium, that's one type. There's an autoimmune type where we see either discrete round patches, that's called alopecia areata, And that can happen at any age. It's autoimmune. So your body's immune system, for some reason, decides that the hair follicles are foreign invaders and must be attacked.
Wow.
And they knock out those hair follicles. Why it does it in round circles? I don't know. It's a UFO type of thing.
Is it
I
rare
don't know.
or no?
It's very common, and it can happen in childhood. Unfortunately, if it happens at a younger age, it has a slightly greater chance of becoming universal.
Is this why some children have those patches? Like, I feel like I see this a lot on like little kids.
Yeah, you can see it in little kids, and it can become alopecia totalis or alopecia universalis. So alopecia totalis is all the hair on your head, and alopecia universalis is all the hair on the body. Mm-hmm. And we are coming up with treatments for that. So what happened is that this guy who had alopecia universalis for like 7 or more years also had some arthritis, and he was put on this drug which is called a JAK inhibitor. It's called Xeljanz as a brand name. So he was put on that medication for his arthritis, and all his hair grew back.
Wow.
All his hair, 7 years after he'd lost all his hair. So I have some patients who have that type of hair loss, and I've managed to get them that medicine, and their hair has completely grown back 7, 10, 15 years later.
It's
Usage
incredible.
for now?
It's an off-label usage, but there are clinical trials for both oral and topical versions of that medication. And then what also happens is that we start understanding the pathways that are being affected by hair growth and hair loss. And so even though that's a particular type, in the end, with alopecia universalis or alopecia areata, the hair becomes miniaturized. The follicle's not dead. It's not gone. It's just inactive. Same thing with androgenetic, the genetic pattern of hair loss.
And that's when you get older,
That's what
right?
I wanted to get to.
Yes.
I know a lot. That's what I hear from a lot of people.
Right. That's the second most common. So
The
stress
first most
shedding
common is stress.
is the stress
Then
shedding.
we got the autoimmune.
And the autoimmune is common, but it's just up there in category. But that's just that's a specific thing. But
we got the old heads.
But
Speaking for myself too.
No, but like it's not even like I see.
But it's not old.
people
It's in
who
their
are-
20s.
Yeah, 20s. I see more and more women, especially men. Who are 19, 20 years old, and they are suffering from male pattern baldness.
This is true. Female and male pattern baldness have different patterns. So men tend to start with recession at the temples, and then it kind of goes to the crown, and then it kind of all meets up, and you lose your hair, and you keep it a little bit in the back. For women, we keep the frontal hairline, and then we just diffusely thin in the crown.
Yeah, sure.
And there's patterned and non-patterned. But I have plenty of women in their 20s who have very severe hair loss. It's really as common in women as it is in men.
And this is genetic.
It's genetic. It comes from both sides of the family. I have patients who come in who insist no one in their family has hair loss. Why do they? And I say it's in your genes. It may not show in the relatives you see.
They're the chillest person. They meditate. They're really not
This
that
is
person.
different.
Right. They
So
can't help it.
It's not their fault. It's hormonal. And the thing is that stress may accelerate a genetic pattern. So if you have a stress pattern, you can accelerate your hair aging. You know that stress can age you. Stress isn't always bad, but it can age you.
Right.
So we try to manage, even in those patients, their stress levels, because that's what we can control. So when I see someone who has that genetic or hormonal pattern of hair loss, what I do is I first obviously look at the scalp, make sure the scalp is overall healthy. I don't tend to do blood tests for most of these people because in 20 years of practice, 99% of the time they come back normal. So either
Like they don't have a vitamin deficiency,
No.
they don't have a disease.
and they don't have a hormonal imbalance.
Okay.
But what it is that either we're measuring the wrong hormones or we're in the wrong scale or the wrong metabolites. Our testing is not good enough to determine exactly what is off hormonally. And so I call it sometimes a local hormonal sensitivity because in women who go through this, I sometimes see hair growth where we don't want it, like on the chin or on the arms and very thick hair growth. And then you see hair loss. You can have acne issues, an adult female pattern of acne where it's more along the jawline and the chin. And I know if I put them on a medication that blocks the male hormones, an anti-androgen, one that I like is called spironolactone, that can help preserve the hair on the scalp, reduce the hair growth on the face, and treat the acne and sometimes affect weight issues as well. But
do all those people have PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome? Is separate from that?
Well, sometimes they do, and spironolactone and metformin can help that. I have also started to use metformin, which is used against insulin resistance for my hair loss patients, because what metformin does is it helps improve oxygenation to the cells, and it's a great anti-aging drug, and it costs pennies. So even in patients who don't have insurance, it's not a particularly expensive drug, and I think it's great for anti-aging. So it's an off-label use. Both of those are off-label use, but we use things off-label actually most of the time as dermatologists.
So you're talking about, we went straight to drugs, but you mentioned the three different types of hair loss. I know some people, we talk about this on the podcast all the time, hair loss vitamins, gummies, this, that, the other thing, even special serums that are, you can get at Sephora. Are these going to help any of the people we just spoke about?
Well, you're right. I did get a little bit ahead of myself in talking about the medications.
It's fine. We'll jump right back. I just want to first go to
because you're right, because medications are not the first line, in my view, for most people. So the way that I do my assessment is I look at the scalp, I look at the hair, make sure that the scalp is overall healthy, the follicles are generally healthy, if they're processing, over brushing, over treating their hair, doing things to their hair. So we talk about what they're actually doing. I don't mind hair coloring. I don't think that makes the problem worse. But if you're blow drying and pulling all the time, or you're using a lot of products in your hair that really cause breakage and dryness. So I try to look at the hair quality itself. Then we go to nutrition, because nutritional support is one of the most important things you do. Actually, my line of the day, and I have to find a good a picture to post with it, is that if you want beautiful skin and hair, eat beautiful food. And what you put in your body helps your hair and your skin in such powerful ways. You need to be optimally metabolically balanced to help support your hair.
But how many Americans in the modern world
They're not.
They're still not? Like, are you going to tell me eating bananas and kale and nuts and healthy fats is going to grow back my hair?
It can help, yeah, because you'll get enough vitamin D.
So you make everybody do that baseline before you even get into anything else?
No, I do a lot of things at once.
Yeah,
I can only say one thing at a time.
Right.
And patients get impatient because they want to hear all of it.
But they shouldn't ignore that step.
But you cannot ignore it. And again, appearance has value. It gives communication about your overall health and well-being. And you know why hair is so important for your self-esteem? Let's think about it. If you see an animal and it has a beautiful thick coat of hair, you think that animal is what?
Healthy.
Exactly. When you have a thick, beautiful mane of hair, we're DNA wired to see that as someone who's healthier and a more viable mate. That's why hair is so important. Thick, flowing hair.
You don't have to tell us. We know.
I know. And that's just, we can't help ourselves. We just believe that. So, and we know it to be true. So that means that you have good nutrition and you're overall balanced. And so I think balancing nutrition is critical. And I talk about food all day long. My dad was a doctor and he was really into nutrition. And we were raised on a diet that was very nutritionally balanced, packed with antioxidants, not a lot of animal protein.
What about the gummies and things that Jess mentioned?
So those are okay as a supplement to a good diet. They're not a replacement. There's a few that I like. The gummies, I'm not a big fan of, but I do like Nutrafol and Viviscal. And then there's another one by Isden. It's a company from Spain called the Lambda Pill Kit.
I've heard about that.
And I have had more patients call me after using that kit. It's a shampoo, it's a spray, and it's a pill, to tell me that their hair is growing back thicker, and they just are so happy. So
you hear that, guys? Isden Kit. Right?
Yeah,
Isden Kit.
We'll put it on the blog.
ISDIN, and it's the Lambda Pill Kit.
Lambda Pill Kit.
It is one of the best ones I've seen. I have Nutrafol, and I love that as well.
Okay.
That is very well sourced.
Yes.
And it's a cocktail of different things. Viviscal is aminomar C. It's a fish protein along with silica and vitamin C. And these are all quite good, but they complement other things. I also have in-office treatments that I do that help hair.
We actually had a list of a couple of the different treatments we get asked
about.
about.
Yeah,
let's run down them. Let's
go.
Yeah, the first one was minoxidil, the over-the-counter drug.
Perfect.
What's the deal with minoxidil? Is it for men, for women? How's it work?
So minoxidil, we're not exactly sure how it works, but it is the only FDA-approved drug for women for hair growth. And they did study. So initially, the minoxidil for women was 2%. And then they did another clinical trial. So these are FDA trials, which means they're blinded, placebo-controlled. You don't know if you're using that or the placebo, and the person judging doesn't know what you're using. So it's really blinded. And what they found was that in over 700 patients, 80% regrew hair, and the hair that regrew was up to 50% thicker.
Wow, that's
and
pretty
that's the
compelling.
5% foam once a day.
So here's a question: if I hit a situation where I'm losing my hair, I'd want to be a little naughty and get the minoxidil for men.
Sure. It's over.
So what's the
it's
deal?
the same.
What's the difference?
It's the same. They're both 5%.
So-
the only difference is packaging and directions on the box. For men,
Oh.
it's 5%.
I bet we
twice a
pay
day.
more. Pink tax. I bet you the women's one costs
Maybe.
more.
You
I
might.
gotta check that.
I wonder if is it more elegant? Is it a more elegant
It's
formulation?
exactly the same. It's
Because
the
it comes
same.
in a serum and a foam now, I think.
So
right?
the
Okay.
foam is the one they did the FDA trials for women. And I like the foam because the foam is heat activated. So when it hits your scalp, it melts into your scalp.
Okay.
So
You're
I
not,
like the
dripping
foam.
around little serums and
Yes.
whatnot.
Okay.
And it's one time a day for women, 2 times a day for men. That's
Okay.
the only difference.
Well, I'd rather do it once than twice.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you know what? They would have wanted you to do it twice, but their study showed that it didn't make much difference. And so
Oh,
once a
hear
day is
that?
all you
Don't
need.
double up. You're just wasting your money.
And also you're just it's work.
Seriously. You know, people are always like, more is better.
Oh,
But it's
totally.
not
That's
because
me.
trust me, they would have done it twice a day because obviously they want to sell more. I don't blame them.
yeah.
But once a day is all you need for
works.
women.
Are there any weird side effects?
Yeah, the problem, and people read it on the box and they come in and they panic because when you start using it, what happens is it pushes the hair into the growing phase. So we talked about that, right? But when you push your hair into the growing phase, then you're also pushing hair out. So in the beginning, as you start using it and the hair grows, you might notice for the first month a little bit of shedding. And people panic about that because they feel like their hair is
Oh,
going
you
to fall
lost
out.
the old ones because all these new ones are
my
coming
gosh.
out.
Exactly,
that's
but
scary,
the hair
yeah.
that falls out is longer.
So stick with it.
Exactly. And the hair that grows in is short. So I always say if your hair sheds a little bit when you start using it, do that happy dance of hair growth because that means that better, thicker hair is growing in.
That is a hot tip, Dr.
Yeah.
Day.
So hair shedding is really, to me, a sign that you're going to get really great results from it. And the other complaint people have, which boggles my mind, is they say, oh, but wait, I have to use it forever? I'm like, well, what don't you do forever? I mean, if you don't eat, you get hungry. If you don't brush your teeth, they fall out. Like, you have to do everything forever. And the good news is, as long as you keep doing it, it will keep working.
Yeah, I know. People think they're cured like it's medicine. Like, I used it. It's grown in. I'm done.
No, everything is, I would
Same
say
with
you're stuck with me
skincare,
for
right?
life. Yeah.
All right.
There's no way around it. You have to use it forever. But it'll keep working. It doesn't stop working. And I
Okay.
think that's the good thing.
Hi, this is Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. How would you like to look 5 years younger? In a clinical study, people that had volume added with Juvederm, Voluma XC in the cheeks perceived themselves as looking 5 years younger at 6 months after treatment. Look younger, feel like you, add volume for lift and contour in the cheeks with Juvederm, Voluma XC, and reverse signs of aging by adding volume to smooth laugh lines with Juvederm Velour XC. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site, redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
Not sure if you all know, but Jess and I are in a bit of a fitness journey together here this spring. I'm trying to get in shape for this mountain I want to climb. She's easing back into her fitness routine. And Aloe Moves is helping us do it all. It's honestly the best streaming on-demand wellness platform I've ever tried. It's not like scary and intense. It suits your needs, whatever time you want to work out. And they have all sorts of classes, yoga practices, fitness routines, meditation. And it's all from one of our favorite brands, Aloe Yoga.
I wish I had more time to tell you about all of the different classes they have. I know you guys, and like even if I don't know you, I feel like I know you. Can I just rattle off some of the incredible classes they have for all levels? Okay. They have things like a wind down walk, which is like perfect for the end of the day. But they also have quirkier things like face yoga. So like face posture and tongue posture. My face is always really tense, like when I'm feeling stressed. The other day, somebody told me to relax my face, and I was like, what? And then I realized things for calming anxiety, releasing the hamstrings. They even have this incredible foam roller workout for the end of the night. Like I have a foam roller and I never knew how to use it. Now I do.
Yeah, thanks, Aloe Moves. It's not just us that's loving Aloe Moves. It was voted Best Wellness App of 2022 by InStyle Magazine and Best Yoga App of 2023 by Women's Health. For a limited time, Aloe Moves is offering you a free 30-day trial. Plus, get this, we're both really excited about this, 50% off an annual membership.
50.
It's 50% off. You can only get it by going to aloemoves.com and using the code Mascara in all caps. That's Aloe Moves, A-L-O moves.com. Use the code Mascara, all caps, to get a free 30-day trial plus 50% off an annual membership. aloemoves.com, code Mascara in all caps.
Hey everyone. Okay, Jen and I really cannot stand how much plastic goes into beauty products and home care products. And one of the biggest offenders is that big tub of laundry detergent that we all have to use. Well, Earth Breeze is a really awesome alternative.
They have absolutely figured out a better way. Instead of a big old jug of laundry detergent, you get a little box of sheets. That's right, Earth Breeze laundry detergent eco sheets actually look like dryer sheets, but they're not. It's a liquidless laundry detergent that dissolves 100%. You can use it in cold or hot wash. You don't have to measure. There's no mess, no big jug. Just toss the sheet in your washing machine. You're good to go. The packaging itself is lightweight, biodegradable, and plastic-free. They offer flexible subscriptions that can be adjusted, paused, or canceled by you anytime. No contracts or fees. It's delivered right to your door. Most importantly, you get a powerful clean. It works. It's tough on stains, fights odors. Oh my God, gross Eric's gym clothes. It works on that. It's amazing.
And it also works with those high efficiency washers because my building, they're very particular about what kind of detergent you can use. I'm just saying. And if you have a septic system too. So I know washers, they're not so straightforward these days. I want you to switch from the old-fashioned goo to something new. Right now, you listeners can subscribe to Earth Breeze and save 40%, people. Go to earthbreeze.com/mascara to get started. That's earthbreeze.com/mascara for 40% off. earthbreeze.com/mascara. I am so excited about this, guys.
So what about, we always hear about, well, let's just go to the hard stuff. Let's go to prescription, okay?
Okay.
You talked about spironolactone. I always hear about Propecia for men. What is Propecia and can women use it?
Propecia is, the generic name is finasteride. So this was a drug that was used in a 5 milligram dose for men who had enlarged prostates.
Is it a tablet or is it a liquid?
It's a pill.
What is it?
It's a pill. And you take it by mouth, typically once a day. So in the 5 milligram dose for men, they noticed as a side effect, they grew hair, but they also grew breasts. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing. But the company, being smart, said, well, we'd like to grow hair and not have other side effects like erectile dysfunction and some other side effects. So let's try to find the lowest dose that will not have those side effects, but still grow hair. And this Dr. Ken Washenik was head of dermatopharmacology at NYU. I've known him for 30 years. One of the smartest people I've ever met. He's now head of medical at Bosley. And so he did the clinical trials for the FDA for Propecia, and they found that the 1 milligram dose grew hair with essentially no side effects. So that means that 1 to 3% of men had erectile dysfunction, whether they were taking the pill or the placebo. The same number of men. So it's a little bit of a suggestible problem.
But can women take the finesse? Say it again for me.
They did trials for women as well, and they fell below the margin to get the FDA approval. So it works for about 30% of women, but that's 70% it doesn't work for. And it does have side effects. So I don't prescribe it for women. I have plenty of women who take it, but a lot of doctors give women the higher dose, the 5% dose, not the 5 milligram dose, not the 1 milligram.
Without the side effects.
Yeah, so I don't prescribe it for women.
I'm going to ask a question on behalf of my dad. So my dad's been bald since like the 70s.
Yeah.
Maybe like the 80s. I used to always ask him where he lost his hair, and he'd tell me things like the ShopRite. Like I really thought that it like fell off somewhere. If he took something like Propecia, would it grow back, or is there a cutoff date for some of these drugs? And I think this is applicable to other listeners, not just my dad.
Well, hi to your dad. I hope he's listening, and I'm sure he's very handsome still.
He's so cute.
I see some men just
really
don't need
cute.
hair. They have good heads.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's got a great head. He doesn't need hair. Dad, love you.
Well, the general rule is you can go back about 5 years.
Okay.
So if he lost in the 70s, 5 years, he'll still be a still good head without hair. But yeah, you can go back about 5 years is what the expectation could be.
That's interesting.
And that's why you want to get it relatively early.
And go in and see a doctor.
Catch it early.
There's lots of treatments that we hear about that are like in-office treatments. Can I ask you about a couple?
Sure.
Or, surgical treatments, actually. Remember Hair Club and hair plugs?
Yes.
What's the story? Are people still doing hair plugs? Have they advanced at all?
He said he's a member too or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
So those are either a form of like a toupee that kind of glues on, which is the hair club idea generally, where they make you just a nice piece and you go in every 6 weeks.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the plugs.
But the plugs are now way advanced. Those are hair transplants. For a hair transplant, you need a good donor area. For men, it would be the area in the back. For women, too, it's the area in the back. Some people have better donor areas than others. But
what is a donor area?
A donor area, it means an area where you have hair that you're generally never going to lose. Right. So hair that is going to, exactly. And you'll harvest those hairs. Before we used to do it as plugs and take out like clumps of 3 to 5 hairs and put those in, and you'd have like little sprouts, but then that didn't look very good or natural. Yeah. So now what they do is they can do 2 ways. You can take out a strip from the back of hair that is going to stay. Well, they numb it first. They're very nice about it. And then they break those up into units of 1 and 2 follicles. But you do end up with a scar in the back that's a very thin line because you take out the skin and the hair and then you push it back together. So you end up with a thin line. It's almost like a little bit of a scalp reduction. Not the worst thing. But some people don't want that thin line there. And so now what they do is follicular unit extractions, where you can go in and just actually take out individual hairs from the back, and it really doesn't leave a scar, and then you can transplant those in the front. Now, you do need a good doctor who knows how to design
what kind
the transplant.
Of doctor does that?
It's a dermatologist typically, and the tech does most of the work. So the technician will help do the processing of the hair, but the dermatologist will determine that pattern of how it's going to frame your face. You cannot take a finite area of harvest from the back, right? You only have so many hair follicles in the back and think you're going to cover the entire scalp. You're going to, if you're lucky, you can just frame the front and sort of figure out a way to comb it so it looks nice and natural. And that's why not everyone is a good candidate for hair transplants. And you have to be careful in how it's done and who does it.
There's an art to it, I guess.
There is definitely an art to it.
I've seen some people that have it done and it looks like they have a Lego head. Like looks like Lego hair.
It's true.
Like it looks like a little helmet.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Why is it so perfect? Why does it have to look so?
That's the artistry.
You got to get a hairstylist in the room there to see, because hairlines aren't like that.
Hairlines aren't like that.
Sally Hirschberger up in there to be mess it up.
Yeah, tousle it, give it a shag.
Right? And doctors who do this, you want to go to a doctor who does this pretty much all the time.
Do they have portfolios of before and after work?
They probably do, but I find that that's not that helpful because then people just show you the ones that they want to show you. So you need to basically get a sense. It's always good to go speak with a few doctors and then connect with that doctor and feel like they understand what it is you're looking for and let them draw the hairline on you.
So we got a couple of critiques recently for not shouting out prices of some of these kinds of procedures. Maybe you can't speak to this because you don't do it. But
I don't do it.
Do you even know a ballpark? That sounds like a house. The kind of
$20,000.
No, I think it's probably about $6,000.
Oh, $6,000
for a session.
And
you might need 2.
Okay.
That's a new head, really.
We've also been hearing about lasers.
Right. So
can lasers help with hair loss?
There's two different types. So there's LED ones. I see commercials for Capillus and some other ones on TV, and those can help. Those are LED lights. They're FDA cleared to grow hair. So they have data that helps grow hair, but they work for some people better than others. You don't know who exactly it's going to work for. But at least the wavelength of light has FDA clearance. And the idea really is, again, it's improving circulation to the follicles, and hopefully that will help the hair grow. But we're not exactly sure how they work. I have a laser in the office called the Fotona laser. That's an erbium YAG laser that I've been doing for hair growth.
So this is an LED. This is like actual laser.
This is an actual laser. And it's in office. You need eye protection and everything. But I've had good results with that growing hair, and I combine it with PRP. Both of these treatments are off-label, but I've had good results with it.
That leads to our next question.
Nice segue, Dr. Day.
I try.
We hear a lot about PRP in our world, but what exactly is it, and how can it treat hair loss?
PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma, and the way that it works is you come in, we draw blood, and different doctors will draw different amounts. I tend to do a little bit more. Then you put that in a centrifuge and you spin it down. When you spin it down, what you're doing is you're removing the red blood cells and white blood cells because those are more inflammatory. You don't want those. They're not helpful. And what you're left with on the other side is a beautiful golden color liquid that is just platelet-rich plasma. And that's packed with growth factors and all sorts of things that is basically fertilizer for the follicles. Then we go back and we inject those into the scalp, and that is helping to nourish those follicles and rejuvenate them. People use PRP. Some people mix it with other ingredients. I tend to double spin it, so I'll take out the white blood cells and red blood cells and some of the platelet-poor plasma. Then I'll spin it down and hyperconcentrate it and then inject it back. And I do that with the hair laser in the same session. And typically you do it once a month for 4 months, and then after that, you see what you get. It works for about 85% of people. And once
what does works mean? Like, what is
they
that?
grow hair. I mean, they grow.
Like their real
I posted
hair?
pictures on my Instagram. It's their hair, and it tends to last. But you do have to do maintenance. So you have to come in just about twice a year to do a follow-up session to
Are we
maintain
buying
the hair
another
growth.
house here?
Yeah,
What's happening?
that was my next question.
So how much does it cost? It costs,
Ballpark.
I think it's about $800 or $900 a session.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you'd have to do that twice at first and then twice a year.
4
from-
times at first.
Oh, got it, got
and
it.
then twice a year to maintain it.
Still less expensive than the
Than
surgery.
a house.
Than the
and a house.
Yeah. So
Well,
I
the
seriously
surgery
was
is
thinking
permanent.
like house. When I heard the hair transplant, I remember hearing like a big celebrity who I will not mention because I don't want to get sued. But
John and Kate plus 8. Didn't that guy have it?
No, a British singer,
Oh, okay.
a famous British singer. I remember hearing that he had a hair transplant like in the 90s, and it didn't look good. But now I know
Can I
lots
guess?
of people. Well, it's just a rumor. I heard he had it.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know the
yes,
answer.
I want to know.
A singer-songwriter who sits at a piano.
I was guessing Elton John. Yeah.
That I didn't say his
No,
name.
you're a reporter. You don't get sued for that.
I have no idea.
I heard
so.
he had one.
Okay.
But I don't know if he
That's why
really
he loves
did.
a hat now, right? He's often
You know,
wearing a hat.
he's so talented. He could do whatever the hell
exactly.
he wants. He could get a.
And men have a lot more options. Men can just shave their head. They can
It's
wear a hat,
is
I guess,
worse
but
for
they
women.
can go gray. Men have many more options. For women, I think, and I have a lot of young male patients who don't consider shaving their head or going bald or gray an option. So it really does affect men's self-esteem as well. But meanwhile, if you see a guy in the street and he's lost his hair, we don't judge or think anything of it.
No.
But for women, it's just not an option. We
Yeah.
can't go gray, we can't go bald. But women can wear hair pieces. Women
There
can.
are some good
There are
weaves
some
and wigs and lace
amazing
fronts.
ones.
Do you ever suggest send people
All day
to,
long.
Who's your favorite wig maker?
good.
I love
question.
2 places. I love Helena's, which is on West 31st Street here in the city. And then Atsuko, who's at the Julian Farrell Salon, makes incredible pieces. You see these all day long and you do not know that people are wearing things. It is just
And
so
that'll
much
last
fun.
you years and years of using
Years
care
and
of it,
years.
right?
And it's so kind of fun when you think about it. When you want
Listen,
your hair done, you just
Beyonce
send your
does
hair
it.
out.
Rihanna, Beyonce,
Ariana Grande, even her songs
Yeah.
about you like my hair? Gee, thanks, just bought it. You know?
And when you want to get your hair done, you just send your hair out.
It's funny.
I think hair should be an accessory. You can have play hair. It can be blonde and long one day, short the next day. It's just another accessory like earrings or anything else you do. Women need to be more okay with that. But unfortunately, we associate wearing hair pieces with chemotherapy and hair loss for illness. And so it has a little bit of a stigma to it. And I'm not a huge fan of extensions because that will help you temporarily, but it does add weight. And that, I think, is a house. And you have to do that pretty often. And they make it they make those extensions really tight in the beginning, which does pull on the hair. So I don't judge. I try to help my patients wean off them or just decrease the amount of hair that they do. So they end up going to so much density and length. And then over time, it's kind of like a drug. You never tend to want to do less. You always want to do more.
Like going blonde. Blonder. Yeah.
That's funny.
That would not work for me either.
Yeah.
So do you think, we talked about a lot of solutions. We talked about, the cost of some of them. Do you think hair loss is optional for a lot of people?
That's a great question. No, I don't. I think that for some people, the genetic and lifestyle and everything push is so strong that it's a really tough battle to fight. And it's either so costly or so time consuming that it's just not possible to fight it. If someone is going bald in their 20s, especially for a guy, for women, I think we can fight it a little bit harder because we have other medications. I think we can slow it down to a large extent, but it's hard. As I think about it, I think about my worst hair loss patients. If money is not an issue, it's optional. If money is an issue, then it's a lot harder because and also side effects. Like I have patients who are obsessed and they're horrified about their hair loss, but they are really more horrified about the side effects from Propecia and some of these other medications and spironolactone. Spironolactone has side effects. You end up, you can faint. You have to be on high doses, and that can affect libido. It can make you dizzy. If you tend towards low blood pressure, you can't always take these medicines.
You're like laying down and not having sex ever again just for your hair? No thanks.
Right. And for some people, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, right? Which is it always takes me back to the other side of it. But the good news is, and there is really exciting news, is that there's money in hair, right? We talked about money, which means that there's research.
Things are always
changing. And this research has been going on for 30 years. They are a millimeter away. They're just a fine hair away from having a cure. So we will have stem cells. We will have cloned hair. I predict in the next 5 or so years. And then we can take one good hair, make you 10,000, and transplant that in the most beautiful way, and you'll have too much hair, and we'll all be complaining about how much hair we have.
Well, let's hope in like 5 years, if we're doing this show, we'll have you back on, and we'll talk about.
Yes, we'll celebrate that.
Then we'll talk about something else because hair loss won't be an issue.
Yeah, we'll do a throwback or something. But that's really, thank you for your honesty about like the situation here, because I think some people do, they think, oh, if I just ate more protein or iron, or like I'm such a stress case, and this is what, they kind of blame themselves, and there's so many factors.
There's so many factors.
Or they blame their mom's mom, or,
I blame my kids for everything. It's their fault. My kids or my parents. It's never me.
We hope you enjoyed the show. It's your reviews and feedback that help us make the podcast even better. Head over to iTunes to rate and review us, or email your thoughts to info@fatmascara.com.
We also want to answer your beauty questions and hear what products you love. To share a Razor One product review or to ask a beauty question, email us at info@fatmascara.
If you send it as a voice memo file, we can even share your voice on the podcast. You can also do that by leaving us a voice message. Our phone number in the United States is 646-481-8182.
Thanks so much for listening.
It all started with Mom. She's always had a way of making everyday moments feel like an adventure. So this Mother's Day, Kate Spade New York is here to help you thank Mom and all the mother figures in your life. From our newest arrivals, like springy dragonfly-adorned handbags and jewelry, to gifts under $100, to the best sellers on Mom's Most Wanted list, there's something for everyone. Maybe you can even treat yourself, too. Shop the Mother's Day gift guide at katespade.com.
Ready to discover a world of rich, striking color? Schwarzkopf Keratin Color delivers professional quality striking hair color that leaves hair looking renewed and healthy, all at a fraction of the cost of a visit to the salon. And with our formula that delivers up to 80% less breakage versus untreated hair, you can feel confident in your hair and let the world see your strength. Discover a world of rich, striking color with Schwarzkopf Keratin Color, available at Walmart.
Hey guys, it's Kayla Ewell from Directionally Challenged, a podcast about realigning your internal compass. New KFC chicken nuggets are finally here, and you have never had nuggets like these. All of the delicious KFC flavor you love in one amazing chicken nugget. 100% white meat, hand breaded in KFC's original recipe. Order new Kentucky Fried Chicken nuggets now available at participating KFC near you. Guys, they're finger licking good.